Howdy. What if the next evolution of leadership isn't about thinking harder, but perceiving more? Today I'm sharing the first essay in a new series I've been developing called Beyond Intelligence. It explores something I've been thinking about for a long time: the relationship between perception, discernment, consciousness, and the way we lead as human beings. I'm going to read the essay, and then I want to spend a few minutes unpacking what it means and where this exploration is going next. Beyond Intelligence: Why the Future of Leadership Belongs to the Most Attuned. Discovering the way we perceive and how it determines the way we lead. Perception is the lens. Possibility is the field it reveals. What if the greatest limitation in your leadership isn't your strategy, your experience, or your resources? What if you've simply been making decisions from a field of perception that is smaller than the one available to you? Every meaningful act of leadership begins long before the decision itself. It begins with the quality of attention a leader brings to the realm of possibility. Possibility isn't determined by circumstances. It's determined by perception. The quality of our perception shapes the breadth of possibilities available to us. Those possibilities shape discernment. Discernment shapes decisions. Decisions shape leadership. Leadership shapes culture. And culture shapes the future. The next evolution of leadership isn't about thinking harder. It is about perceiving more. For generations, we've measured leadership through a remarkably narrow set of metrics. We've celebrated intelligence, rewarded certainty, admired confidence, and elevated those who could produce the quickest answers. But we organize around efficiency, competition, prediction, and control, believing that if we could gather just enough information and think hard enough, we could solve almost any problem before us. Those capacities have taken us far. They've also brought us to the edge of challenges that cannot be solved on their own. The world no longer asks us to solve simple problems. It asks us to perceive living systems: climate change, technological acceleration, fractured communities, geopolitical instability, polarization, ecological misuse. These aren't isolated challenges waiting for better strategies. They are interconnected expressions of a reality far more intricate than any single discipline, ideology, or perspective can fully comprehend. The leaders who will shape the future won't be those who simply think harder. They'll be those who have cultivated the capacity to perceive more of the whole. And I don't mean HOLE, I mean WHOLE. Yet most leaders have been trained to search for answers before they have learned to expand their perception. Leadership has never been defined by decision-making alone. Decision-making is simply the visible expression of something much deeper. Meaningful decisions begin long before we commit to a course of action. They begin with the quality of our attention. What we attend to shapes what we perceive, and what we perceive shapes the possibilities we're able to recognize. Historically, when people commit their attention to a point of view, they lock in. When we focus exclusively on decisions, we ignore the process that gave rise to them. We attempt to improve our outcomes without examining the quality of awareness from which those outcomes emerge. We refine strategy while overlooking the field from which the strategy is born. No amount of tactical brilliance can compensate for a vision constrained by fear, inherited assumptions, unconscious conditioning, or historic ways of seeing. Strategy is indispensable. It organizes complexity, yes. It aligns people. It transforms vision into action. But strategy can only work with the possibilities available to the person creating it. Details build in isolation. Details that are built in isolation rarely create coherence. A perfectly executed strategy built upon limited perception can still move an organization in a direction that falls short of what might otherwise be possible. As awareness expands, so too does our capacity to perceive relationships, patterns, and the opportunities that were always present, but previously beyond our view. Vision always precedes strategy. Perception always precedes vision. Which raises a more important question then: what is the best strategy? Perhaps a better question is, who must I become to perceive what my current way of seeing cannot reveal? That question changes everything because it shifts leadership from the pursuit of better answers to the cultivation of greater awareness. This is where I believe leadership enters its next stage of evolution, not through more information, faster thinking, or even greater confidence, but through the disciplined practice of attunement. Attunement is the ongoing capacity to return to center as new information arrives. The practice of finding equilibrium while certainty has not yet revealed itself, remaining open enough to continue listening instead of rushing to conclude. It's the willingness to allow perception to expand before demanding an answer. This is what I call resonant coherence. Resonant coherence is not a moment of inspiration. It's not an act or personality trait. It is a continual calibration, a way of relating to reality that allows the brain, body, heart, and soul to contribute their unique forms of intelligence before discernment and decision making takes place. Every state of consciousness shapes perception, and perception determines what becomes available to us. Fear narrowly and naturally narrows that field. It directs our attention toward threat, certainty, and survival. While indispensable in moments of genuine danger, fear alone cannot perceive the full landscape of possibility. Yet fear has quietly become the default operating system of much of modern leadership. Organizations make decisions from the fear of losing market share, losing speed, losing relevance, losing profit, losing influence, or being left behind. Individuals making decisions from the place of fear of failure, rejection, uncertainty, or getting it wrong. Fear isn't inherently problematic. It's an extraordinarily powerful survival mechanism. The problem arises when survival becomes the dominant lens through which we interpret every challenge, opportunity, and possibility. In a coherent state, fear no longer dominates the conversation. Logic is no longer asked to carry responsibilities it was never designed to hold. the body becomes another resource, another source of intelligence. The heart reminds us what serves life. And something deeper begins to emerge, not as wishful thinking, but as a quiet knowing that does not require force or defense. The goal is to become so deeply attuned that fear is no longer the only signal you can hear. Fear often mistakes the horizon for the edge of the world. Beyond that horizon lies a field of possibility that fear itself is incapable of perceiving. Discernment is not something we manufacture, it is evidence that our perception has expanded. When I use the word consciousness, I'm not referring to a belief system or a mystical experience. It can be part of that. I'm referring to the total field through which we perceive, interpret, and relate to reality. It is the lens through which every decision, every relationship, strategy, and act of leadership emerge. Our educational systems, professional training, and organizational cultures have become remarkably sophisticated at cultivating one extraordinary way of knowing. We learn to analyze, categorize, compare, measure, predict, and build understanding piece by piece. This linear, logical, cumulative process has given humanity extraordinary advances in science, medicine, technology, and countless other fields. It is one of our greatest achievements. It is also only one expression of human intelligence. Human beings possess a far richer field of perception than we've generally been taught to recognize. We are capable of higher sense awareness, embodied knowing, emotional and relational intelligence. We are capable of perceiving patterns that only emerge when we step back far enough to see the whole rather than becoming consumed or siloed by the individual parts. And there are moments when we simply know, a profound clarity that arrives before language has even formed, before analysis has completed its work or evidence has caught up with what something deeper already recognizes within us. These ways of perceiving are not in competition with one another. They're complementary. Each reveals dimensions of experience that contribute to a more robust interpretation of reality. The next frontier of human potential is not abandoning analytical intelligence. It's learning to access the full field of human perception, where analytical intelligence becomes one powerful way of knowing within a broader, integrated whole. Perception doesn't arrive all at once. It reveals itself in moments. A new insight, a subtle knowing or feeling, a relationship that suddenly becomes visible. Alone, each moment may seem insignificant. Together, they reorganize the landscape through which we experience reality. With every expansion of perception, possibilities that were always present become newly available to us. The challenge is not that reality lacks possibility. It's that our habitual ways of perceiving often become so familiar that they subtly define the boundaries of what we believe is possible. Over time, our perceptual frames become so familiar that we stop recognizing them as perspectives at all. We experience them as reality itself. And when that happens, possibilities that exist beyond those frames don't disappear. They simply become available to our awareness. The work of leadership is not to arrive at a final way of seeing, it's to remain available to a continually expanding relationship with reality, to recognize that every lens reveals something, every lens conceals something, and every expansion of perception brings into view possibilities that were present all along, simply waiting for us to become available to them. If our perception shapes what becomes available to us, the future of leadership will not belong solely to those who accumulate the most knowledge, master the most sophisticated strategies, or produce the fastest answers. It will belong to those who cultivate the courage to continually expand the way they perceive. Because every meaningful shift in leadership begins long before a decision is made. It begins with perception. A perception is never finished. It continues to evolve as we become curious enough to question what we have mistaken for the whole of reality. And if our perception shapes what becomes available to us, what then shapes perception? That's where we'll begin on the next essay. We'll explore the invisible perceptual frames that quietly form through our experiences, identities, successes, fears, conditioning, and how they become the architecture through which we interpret reality itself. Because before we can expand perception, we first have the opportunity to become curious about the lens we've been looking through all along, recognizing that what we've been experiencing or what we've experienced as reality may simply be the current perspective through which we've been viewing it. From there, if we choose, perception has room to expand. I'm a board certified hypnotherapist, leadership consultant, author of The Sacred Middle Finger, Your Permission Slip to Break Free from Other People's Rules and Live Your Best Life, and the founder of Young Integrative Consulting. My work explores the intersection of consciousness, leadership, human potential, and expanded perception, helping visionary leaders cultivate deeper discernment through embodied awareness, heart intelligence, and resonant coherence. And so, what I keep coming back to from this essay is this: strategy can only work with the possibilities we are capable of perceiving. And I think that is what we're kind of at the precipice of when we see across the board in leadership. I see people believing that what they're seeing out there are the only options available to them. But what if you, the observer of the decisions that leaders are making, are able to expand your awareness into a broader field, to perceive beyond the duality of what is presented to the collective writ large? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please like and share and check out the full article. Thank you so much.